Look who's back. Welcome into another edition. This is the Illegal Contact Podcast. Thomas, Kyle, Jared, Peyton. It's the original crew. Guys, it's been so long. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Wonderful.
It's good to see Jared. We bet last week incorrectly. We all put our money that it was going to be Christian, and Jared would probably not. And look who's here.
Thank you, softball.
Jared just had to get through the move. You know, he was moving last week. He had a lot going on. Now he's here. He's ready to go.
Ready to go. Was listening to last week the college football predictions, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we might need to give him a little Clemson segment today because we're going to be a little light on college football, and we tried our best to do a little Clemson talk. But Jared, I think we need to give you maybe a few minutes if we have some time at the end of college football.
You're going to give Jared a little Clemson? That's like giving me a little Michigan State bet. That's not.
I know you open the door. It might not be. We might put a timer on the clock for you there and see how long it takes. But I think because he showed up today, he's owed 5 minutes of Clemson talk.
Hey,
I'm good with that. Uninterrupted. Let him have the podium.
Throw me a 5-minute Clemson bone.
There you go.
5 minutes of thinking Clemson's going to do anything this year. All right, let's go.
All right, we got a really good podcast today. We've got a lot of good topics, recapping week 0 of college football and kind of doing a little bit of picks. Our picks are back. So we got week 1 picks for college football and then kind of wrapping into a little bit of NFL. We'll probably be predominantly an NFL podcast today for the bulk of it, but we're going to do our college football recap and segment first for the first part and see where that takes us. So, Kyle, I know, are we going to end up starting with that week 0 recap? And really there's one big game to talk about, and that's Nebraska. And we did talk about the Scott Frost era, and I feel a little, I feel kind of good. Not actually, I don't feel good. I like Scott Frost, but I feel like, a little bit vindicated from my pushback on you guys here. So what did you guys see from week 0 there with Nebraska obviously losing to Northwestern, where a bit of a surprise, but if you look back at the Scott Frost era in Nebraska, maybe not so much of a surprise?
Don't try to be Alabama in the national championship game. Going for an onside kick when you're up by 11, maybe not the best move.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't understand the coaching decision, but that's something he's got to answer for. So
I think he's in. It's simply he's in his head too far. He's thinking he has to go try all these things, and his players want him to be aggressive and make those kind of moves. And to an extent, he gets that onside kick, they put the game away, and they win it. Then we're not even having this conversation. We're saying, "Oh man, a little bit closer than what I would have expected against Northwestern." But look, you got the W, and moving forward. But you roll those dice in a really risky situation like that, you're not setting yourself up to do any favors. And you thought you had the Boo Birds before. They are coming now.
Well, and I think that a lot of folks probably, I know Peyton and I both mentioned this through texting, but Ryan Helinski, he looked really, really good in that game.
Took him a little while to catch fire, but
right, yardage wise, he was making good decisions early, but then you saw, he just, I don't know what South Carolina was thinking sitting him, because he started as a freshman, and then they gave the starting job to a senior. I think midway through the season, or it might have been the next year, but Helinski showed a lot of promise for them. So I feel like that was a big mistake by South Carolina to let him go. I think he's going to have a good year this year with Northwestern, but Northwestern had struggled to score last year. So the fact that they put up 30 points in a game, that was huge for them. So I kind of am interested to see how well they do, because usually they're very good defensively, if I'm not mistaken. Kyle, normally they're good defensively. Is that right?
I was going to say last few years it was more of the offense as the issue with Nebraska, especially late in games. And I was interested to see, maybe was this the Scott Frost issue or Alex Martinez, right, who was the quarterback who transferred out.
He blamed his coordinator in this game at first. So
it was interesting. Was this a Martinez problem? Was it a Scott Frost problem on offense? I mean, the offense did pretty well. It wasn't, 28 points, so you can't really blame the offense too much. Obviously, no points in the fourth quarter, but this was more, it seemed like, of a defensive breakdown and coaching in a sense there, which ended up, when you're a 12-point favorite, maybe you never know. Week 2, we'll see what happens. This game was in Ireland, which is pretty cool. I did like that, but
Thompson looked good though.
So
to the point of the offense, like he looked really polished. He started off strong. So I'm curious to see if he can keep that same production going forward. Frost has got to fix the defense, but I think Thompson needs to remain consistent, keep good decision making. For him to kind of take command of the offense, because that was something where Martinez he couldn't get over that hump. Hopefully Thompson has that next level of grit that Martinez didn't have to be able to take the offense and keep them productive. None of these low 14-point games anymore where your defense is doing their best but still can't stop anybody, especially looking at the defense the other day. If they can't stop anybody, Thompson's got to score. So
yeah, Thompson looked really good. He had that it was that 25-yard pass, something like that, in the second quarter when they were up 14-10, I think. And then the wide receiver just didn't control the ball at all, and questionable. Right? They let the play in the field. The call in the field stand. I think he was down, but that strip fumble, you take that away too. I mean, they're probably at least going to go up at that point in time 17-10, if not 21-10. I think a lot of the players looked really good. It was just, I think the coaching is what fell apart. You didn't set your team in a close game with the best opportunities to be able to win the game, and you put your team in a position where they couldn't dig out of a hole, and that's all there is to it. Got to move on and come up. Thomas, you asked me my opinion if I'm selling or if I'm keeping Scott Frost. And what I said is I have my receipt for the Scott Frost purchase in my hand, and I am legitimately considering a return. My only hesitation is, while I didn't think Northwestern was going to be that good, Pat Fitzgerald, you never know what you're going to get. It's hard to predict what a Northwestern team is going to be. We could end up seeing, who knows, in 10 weeks, this Northwestern team could be 5-5. They could be 9-0. I doubt they'll be 9-0, but they could be.
If they struggle now this week against North Dakota, then
tell the whole story.
Hand in that receipt. It should be a walkover game. I mean, they shouldn't have an issue, even if this is just another 4-win team. They still shouldn't have an issue. But yeah, if they struggle this week, then I think you guys can head to the store, hand in that receipt for the return.
October 9th, I believe, is when his contract changes and the buyout lowers drastically.
Yep.
So,
which is 2 weeks. 2 weeks after the Oklahoma game. So if that is a non-competitive game and they're well below 500 at that point, yeah, you're right. I think the buyout cuts in half, and
the prodigal son leaves.
Well, and overall, it's just an overall football game. Sounds like you guys watched it, but it was a really fun game to watch. It was very well balanced, both passing, running. There were turnovers, so defense was making some plays as well. It was just a really fun football game. I thought it was a great first week game.
Why Northwestern, Nebraska, and Dublin, though? Like Notre Dame makes sense there, but like Northwestern is
Fitzgerald,
Notre
I guess.
Dame. I mean, Chicago kind of has Irish roots.
Yeah, they hear the name Fitzgerald, they come running.
That's right.
They got free beer. Wi-Fi was
They did
down.
get free beer because the Wi-Fi being down.
What a just masterclass on what to do when something like that fails.
Great.
I mean, they didn't even hesitate either. So I hope that American sporting venues have taken note, so that if there's an issue with the lights again, like we've seen in other places, free beer. No internet, free beer. You're out of nachos, free beer.
Jared's here. He's putting the glasses on. All right, so there wasn't really many other games, I think, to note in week 0.
We'll
competitive game for my UConn Huskies.
Although yeah,
I will
for a different reason.
Yeah, that was the one other game. Yeah, other than that, not too many notable games here. Everything kind of went as expected. Shout out to UConn, who covered and looked pretty competitive, but lost their star wide receiver and quarterback in the game, unfortunately. But yeah, so let's bring up Vanderbilt, Hawaii, which was really only a 9-point spread here. Vanderbilt ends up winning 63-10, right? And they put up 42 points in the second half, so 42-0 in the second half. Is Vandy back? Could this be a legit team this year, or is Hawaii just going to have a really down year? Not back, but I mean, like, could they be competitive?
I was going to say, speaking from the SEC perspective that plays them every single year, back, I don't know. They had some good times with Derek Mason while he was still there. But before that game, and I think it was like a day or two before, Clark Lee was telling the media essentially, like, be ready. Like, we're going to be a lot better than people think we are. And he kind of got laughed at in the articles that were written. So I think it was really important for him to come off with that kind of win to back up what he said and essentially put the media on notice of, oh, wait, actually, could they do something? So I'm curious when they get into SEC play, when they've got more competitive opponents that they're coming across, can they deliver the same type of production defensively and offensively against those teams? So I don't know. They're always one of those teams that, like, they're bad in an amazing conference. So, like, most of their losses are coming from, like, highly ranked teams, which is rough. So, I mean, they're never, like, that far away. They've got good players that come in there. It's not like Vanderbilt doesn't produce NFL talent. But I think it's too early to say they're back. We'll see.
Yeah,
look at that wild third quarter.
Mike Wright, the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, they exploded in the third quarter there, Jerry.
35 points.
Yeah, and he rushed for like 163 yards in the game.
Yeah, 87-yarder on the ground there with a touchdown, 4 total touchdowns. So maybe it's a new Mike White. I don't know. Mike Wright. Not Mike White. I got the Jets in my mind. So other than that, really, again, week 0, good to have college football back. Before we get into our picks and kind of some predictions for week 1, which starts Thursday with a couple of good games. Kyle, open up the floor here. We got a little bit. We want to bring up Michigan quarterback battle here. We've made a decision to not make a decision is the headline.
You start your letter with "We've made a decision," to go on and say we've not made a decision, even though I think they've made a decision. I think they know what they want to do. I don't know what that is. I think that Harbaugh knows what he wants to do. He's just afraid to make the decision because at the end of the day, all this is. So for those of you who don't know, that are listening, I'm sure most of you do, J.J. McCarthy, the 5-star recruit, that all the fans and everybody wants to be the starting quarterback. Not all, most of the fans I talk to want him to be the starting quarterback. They say he's more talented, he's the better quarterback than Cade McNamara. Cade McNamara, mind you, who won you the Big Ten last year, beat Ohio State for the first time in forever, and your one game that you lost was to Michigan State. And who lost that game? It wasn't Cade. It was JJ fumbling the ball in the fourth quarter. Fumbling the ball twice in that game, mind you. Fumbling the ball and going out of bounds one time, and then fumbling the ball and turning it over. And then Michigan State then scores and goes ahead and the touchdown, and Michigan come back. And then some try to complain and say, like, well, he threw the interception. Like, what? Yeah. Brantley made just the most unbelievable defensive play to end that game. That ball was in All's hand, and Brantley took it away. I mean, it was an incredible interception. So that's not the case. So it's funny that you're willing and you want to go ahead and take the guy who's given you the most away. And so, well, other teams have done it. Clemson did it with
Kelly Bryant.
Jared, before Jaguars quarterback.
Before Trevor Lawrence and Kelly Bryant.
Trevor and Bryant, yeah. I was like, kind of, but that was going into week 4, and Bryant just said, I'm not playing this game, and left before that even happened. So, I guess, like, it took it away. I think it's a little bit different of a situation. But regardless, here's the thing. So they're going to play Cade in game 1 against Colorado State. Okay, Colorado State, not a great team or a good team. I think they're probably going to wash them by 40 probably. So, I mean, yes, Cade gets an easy battle there. But JJ is getting game number 2 against Hawaii. What are you learning? Like, you're not gaining anything by this thing. You're gonna choose your quarterback, supposedly, potentially, based off of those 2 games and which one does better. Well, if I'm Cade McNamara and I just won you the Big Ten and my team voted me captain, and now I'm going to lose my starting job to a kid who played a high school team who just got beat 62-10 2 weeks before by Vandy, the Rutgers, if not worse, of the SEC. And I'm losing my starting job because he did this. Like, I don't know how you do that. 2, what any backup quarterback on that team with those offensive weapons is probably going to be able to put up points galore on Hawaii. It makes no sense. If I'm a fan and being objective, I would absolutely hate it. If it was my coach, I'd be furious if this is the case going on. Sure, you have 2 great quarterbacks that are in your carousel. Use the one who has won you everything and has shown he can lead the team, and his team trusts him and wants him to be the quarterback. And if he's not being productive and things aren't working out, well, then fine, go ahead and replace him and put him in. Don't make the battle go even longer. Take the ownership, be a leader, make the decision, stick with it, and move forward. The only reason this is happening is because they're afraid of one of them transferring out. More than likely, they're afraid of JJ transferring out. And they think, we lose JJ, this 5-star recruit, we're never going to win anything again. Like, he hasn't played in any meaningful games where he's done anything. The only time that he has was when he played against Michigan State, and he lost that game. I'm not saying he still can't be a great quarterback, but you're not getting anything. Like, there's nothing proved based on JJ so far. You need to see him in real game situations. When they had to win the game against Michigan State and they lost, who was in? Cade. When they had to come back and win the game against Northwestern when they were down, who did they give control of the game to and give the ball to? Cade. Okay, well then keep going with that. It's just the stupidest thing ever. I hate it from that fan standpoint. Part of me loves it as a fan because I think this is more than likely this can't end good, especially if they go with JJ. Like, I just see that tearing apart the locker room in some way. There's going to be ruffles that'll happen through that, and I hope that's the case. I hope I'm very right that this falls terribly apart and turmoil comes back.
It's a little unconventional, right, as far as the way that they're going about it. Usually you have someone making a decision. The head coach will make a decision on one of them, even if they feel the way that they did in the letter. Even if Jim Harbaugh actually felt that way, they don't usually make it public like that. And I think that's the part that's a little bit
Why make an announcement?
Right, exactly.
Just do it.
I feel like from a talent perspective, it would seem as if JJ, of course, he's only a sophomore, but he's got the talent. He's, of course, your future, most likely. And, of course, Cade is a senior this year. You already kind of know what you're getting, game manager. Like, I know you mentioned that in the podcast last week, Kyle, that he's very good at game managing, whereas you probably can get a little more lightning in a bottle with JJ. And I know that he brings more to the table in terms of a dual threat. And Cade's more of a pocket passer. So,
well,
I think
he's a Drew Brees. He's a run and gun. But
yeah, and I think it's more of what does Jim Harbaugh want to do this year? What does that scheme look like? And so, yeah, go ahead.
The same thing it was last year. They're not going to do anything different. It was ground and pound. They won games last year by being dominant on the offensive line and going forward.
That's the weird part. Because
you need a game manager for that offensive system. So unless you're changing completely up with this, you promoted an offensive coordinator from the same offense you had last year. So I doubt you're revamping your entire offense. And you're also, so on the other side, flip on the other side, you're losing. It's just because it's idiotic, and I hate the fact that the media loves this guy and great coach, and this is bad coaching. You lost almost all of your defense. You don't know what you have there. So what you need to be able to ensure, your defense bailed you out last year. Your defense is what won you most of those games, and your offense got you points and then got much better as the season went on. This year, you don't know what that defense is going to be. You need a game manager to ensure that you have ball control and be able to control the clock and possession as the season going on. Why would you want to go away from that when it's a proven formula that works, other than you're scared and you're afraid you're going to lose your 5-star guy that all the fans like?
So do you feel like they might run a little more RPO options this year, especially if JJ's at the helm? Because I feel like he probably brings a little more RPO to the table.
They should.
They would have to, I think. Like, if you're going to have to change up your game plan and what you're using if you're going to primarily run JJ. You can't. I don't think you run the same offense.
And if you want to be competitive in the college football playoff, that's something that you have to be able to do. You can't just. I feel like their style of play last year, even though they made it to the college football playoff, that was their demise ultimately.
Who was the more talented quarterback at Georgia last year? Stetson Bennett or JT Daniels?
Well, that team was just ridiculous, but yeah.
but it's a similar situation. You chose a game manager in Stetson Bennett, a walk-on, because you knew you could win with that team that you had together, and you didn't play JT Daniels, the 5-star quarterback who had all the talent. So just because somebody has more talent does not mean it's always the right decision.
Sure.
I think I get that. I think Harbaugh's looking at this in two ways. He's looking at it like it's the NFL. It's not the NFL. If you name a starter, it doesn't mean that you have to stick with that starter for like the first few games so that you can like maintain your own like persona. Like, no, you can switch them after the first game if you want to. It's college. Plenty of teams will swap their quarterbacks game to game. I mean, Tennessee did it when we had Garantano because he wasn't performing well. And then Maurer went in and we just kind of kept flipping around. It was fine. Frustrating to see somebody, not do well. But as far as, I don't know, the like spirit of the team, like it's not like this like detrimental thing that I think he's expecting where you could genuinely have some difficulty in the NFL if you start to move around and lose credibility as a coach. But I also think it's not these guys are so good we don't know which one to pick. I think neither one is good enough to like really rise above the other. So he's stuck and can't say like, well, I wouldn't pick either one of these guys. I kind of want to just get through the season and find the next one. So I think he's just trying to spin it like, oh, these guys are so good. Like I don't know who to go with. And in hopes that somehow the games and the fans will tell him what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's obvious that, right. If this was new, you could maybe understand a little bit of it, but it's not. These guys were here last year. He had the whole offseason. Nothing's new. Nothing's changing. So it doesn't make sense, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays off. There's always drama going on with Michigan, but
one more
before
thing.
we go to picks, go ahead, finish up.
One more thing. Also, while he came out and said that in his press conference yesterday, he said both quarterbacks will play in both games. So again, you didn't decide anything. You're just going to reverse who starts and you're going to play both of them in the game just like you did last year anyway. So apparently it's going to be quarterback by committees.
Whatever. Well, and sometimes too, it works out with who's the hot hand, because it may wind up being one of those situations. Because I think Stetson Bennett, that's kind of how he got his go at it, was he was the hot hand after JT Daniels went down, and they said, hey, Stetson's got control of the offense. He's doing really well. Let's just keep what's going and what's working.
Coach made a decision.
Yeah.
Hooked up.
So, and I think it may be one of those situations where we're just not sure until a few weeks do play out. So
multiple weeks. They have the easiest cakewalk schedule through.
All right, no more Michigan talk. So Kyle didn't have an aneurysm.
Kyle, good job, Kyle. Good job. We only.
I enjoy getting to laugh at him. So I'm part of me is happy they did this because it created so much content for me to listen to this week and laugh at and get to make fun of. So it's cool.
We got picks. We got week 1 picks. We got some really good games coming up. A lot of good games Thursday. I don't think we're picking any of the Thursday games. Obviously, Peyton, Tennessee's on Thursday.
You don't want to pick Tennessee Ball State?
We do actually. Yes, no, we could now. We do have the West Virginia-Pittsburgh game, which is Thursday. So we can actually start with that one, which is, pretty interesting. I think, especially on the quarterback end there. West Virginia at number 17 Pitt. College football, we're going to pick 5 games each week. We're going to do straight up because of the craziness of college. NFL will do against the spread. College will do straight up. All the 5 same games, all whoever's on this week, the week. Kyle will keep track and we'll keep updates. But looking at this game, it's probably going to be the first, other than the Nebraska game, the first big game of the year, Thursday, 7 o'clock, ESPN. What do you guys think here? What do you think? We'll give a quick, 1-minute synopsis and kind of give our picks from there.
If I was picking spread, I would be picking,
which is 7.5, by the way.
7.5. If I was picking spread, I know
You're
I'm not. I'm just saying that because I think it's going to be closer. I'm going to give it to Pitt, being at home and they're ranked and a little bit better of a team, I think. But I think it's going to be close. Sadly, Pitt. But let's go Mountaineers.
I think Pitt wins by double digits.
I think I agree with Kyle. I think it's closer. I think West Virginia wins. I do not have I don't have high hopes for what Pitt actually ends up bringing in this year. I think there's an assumption that because Kenny Pickett did well and they have a name like Slovis coming in, and we're like, well, what has Slovis done? Like, I'm not really seeing a ton there. So I'm comparing former USC quarterbacks, and I pick JT Daniels.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I want to lean that way too. It's throwing me off a little bit because it is at Pitt, and they've had a pretty good football culture the last few years with some good teams. But if you're going straight off a quarterback, which early on in the year, there might be a little bit more street ball, a little bit more freestyle. The quarterback, you might have to rely on a little bit more early in the year, especially both new guys, so they're both learning the systems. I think I've seen more out of JT Daniels. Give me JT Daniels over Slovis at this point. So I'm at West Virginia as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of been West Virginia's issue, is being able to put points on the board. So if JT Daniels can come in and show a little something for him, then maybe you might be able to turn that offense around. But yeah, I mean, Pitt still has a good amount of their players back from last year. I know that they lost 2 huge pieces for sure. So I know that's a big reason why they're not in the top 10 this year. But I like Pat Narduzzi.
One huge piece and a fake Heisman candidate.
No, I like Pat Narduzzi a lot, though. I think he's a very good head coach. He's built a good program there.
All right, so I think maybe
I'm changing my pick. Hold on. I'm going West Virginia because I just have flashbacks now of last year. You lost to Western Michigan, and they always seem to do that. Like Pitt's supposed to be good, and they drop a game early when they shouldn't. And let's go Mountaineers. I'm taking Mountaineers.
All right, so we got 3 for West Virginia. Jared, you are the lone picker on Pitt, but they are the 7-point favorite at home. So odds are probably in your favor there, but we'll see, especially with that quarterback challenge. But that's a good taster on Thursday night. Probably the game of the week. Maybe you guys disagree here, but nationally, the game of the week is number 11 Oregon at number 3 Georgia. No, disagree there already. Okay.
I think it's OSU and Notre Dame. That'd be my game of the week.
Yeah. This is game number 2. But...
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I mean,
I have more to learn and find out from the Ohio State Notre Dame game than I do from this game.
You have more to learn.
I have more to learn from that game. That game's going to be more telling to how the season goes for both those teams than what this game's going to be.
I don't know. I'm pretty set in both those teams on what I think. I'm still a little up in the air on Oregon. I think the variance of Oregon could be all over the place. I don't really know. It's a pretty new team here. Obviously, Bo Nix. So we'll stick to the Oregon game. But you guys made me change my mind. Game of the week, obviously, going to be Notre Dame at Ohio State. But looking at the Oregon at Georgia game, two ranked teams. Obviously, Georgia coming off an incredible year, losing most of their defense. What do you guys see? I think Georgia is the heavy favorite here at home, obviously, but do you see Oregon kind of sticking in this game with Bo Nix and see them being competitive?
I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I would say Georgia wins by 2 touchdowns.
Exactly what I would say. I think 17-point spread, I don't know that it'll be that, but I think Georgia, even though Georgia's lost so much, they're still a very deep team, very well-coached team. And I think Oregon is recruiting lights out right now, doing very well. I think you're going to see Oregon be very, very good in just a short amount of time. I don't think it's this year necessarily. I think they'll be a top 25 team. I just don't think they're going to be able to hang with, especially being at Georgia. Or
I really do want to. Yeah,
Benz.
I want to pick. Personally, I'm leaning towards picking Oregon with the spread here. I obviously I don't think we can pick against Georgia straight up here from what we saw last year and kind of that pedigree, just a juggernaut up there now in recruiting with Alabama. But as far as Oregon, I think they're pretty interesting. Dan Lanning coming actually from Georgia as their defensive coordinator. Maybe he has an edge on kind of how to game plan against that offense. I don't know, but it's interesting that Georgia didn't name a defensive coordinator. They have kind of the co-defensive coordinator with Muschamp and.
Well, yeah, one of them is going to start for the first game, and then the other one is going to start for the second game.
Maybe who knows if it's a bad first half? Could you see a switch halfway through the game? I don't know. But Will Muschamp and Schumann are kind of co-defensive coordinators, so taking a page out of the Bill Belichick book here. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much defensive coordinator change there changes, and so many holes that you have to fill on defense. But
and that's going to be if Oregon is able to turn it around defensively. We know they can score, especially now with Bo Nix too. I feel like their offense should still keep going like they were last year, but it was really their defense that let them down a lot last year. So. Yeah. Bringing in that defensive coordinator from Georgia, like you said, I feel like if he's able to kind of create a new culture for those Oregon Ducks, they really might have a shot. But I'm going to go with the panel here. I'm going Georgia as well.
Week 1 last year, was that not Oregon beating Ohio State? Was that week 1 last year? Or was it? It was early in the year. Was it week 1?
It was week 2.
Week 2. So that was a big shock, obviously, last year, which held Ohio State out of the college football playoffs. But it's a different team. I think obviously 17 points is a lot, but that's a consensus all for Georgia there. So looking at game 3, you guys want to go? You guys are going to go Cincinnati at Arkansas here? It's another pretty interesting game.
Mm-hmm. Arkansas.
Let's go that one. Arkansas.
Yeah.
Arkansas. KJ Jefferson, I think he's going to have a really, really good year. My bet is he's going to pass for over 3,000.
Heisman watch?
He's probably going to run for another 750 at least.
Heisman watch or no?
I think he'll be in like that midseason conversation. For Arkansas though, they're going to have to get key wins for him to be in that conversation. He can ball out, but for an SEC team, like you've got to have the wins, the signature wins as a quarterback to remain in that conversation.
I'm gonna go with Arkansas as well. I think losing Ritter, and I think you're actually seeing how good he actually is from
our boy Sauce.
Exactly. So that they've lost too many pieces at Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is going to be another good team this year, though. I definitely feel as if they're going to be a good, and they're going to be a tough out for anybody, but. Arkansas, I know Peyton mentioned it. I really like how all of their programs recently, baseball, basketball, football, everything just seems to be clicking right now. So kudos to the athletic director. But I feel like the Arkansas could be one of those surprise teams. When you say surprise, I guess, because it's SEC, you typically think Georgia and Alabama, but I feel like Arkansas could make a little bit of noise in the SEC this year.
Yeah, I think that's another consensus pick here with Arkansas all around. I think it is interesting. one thing to note, Cincinnati has not named their quarterback yet, so they're probably going to wait till Saturday, potentially for Luke Fickell to pick their starting quarterback. Obviously,
Maybe they'll play 1 week 1 and 1 week 2.
They might do that for different reasons if this game gets a little ugly, but it's only a 6-point spread. Obviously, it's going to be it remains to be seen what this new Cincinnati team will look like. But
Kyle, you can't laugh at that joke since you didn't laugh at it when I made the joke about the defensive coordinators.
Sorry.
You're not allowed to laugh.
I'm laughing at it now. It's funny.
That's true. There you go. All right, game 4 of the week. So we've had 2 consensus picks out of the 3 so far. Game 4. Let's move over to the Utah game. I don't know why I said the Utah game. The Utah Utes.
Utah Utes.
The Utah Utes away game at Florida.
Yeah.
Might be another consensus pick here, but we'll see.
I don't get how this Vegas knows maybe more than what I think here. So Vegas only has them as a 3-point favorite. I think the Utes walk them by 2 scores. I think Florida is falling apart, and Utah is a program that is definitely on the rise. A lot of depth there. Utah. Big.
Yeah, this is that. You're right. The spread here is a little interesting. Utah, give me Utah for sure. But I like the Billy Napier hire though. I think Florida got some potential. Might be a rough year, but give me Utah here. But you're right. It is a little fishy with the spread there. Vegas might know something. I don't know.
So I'm with Utah as well. Florida, I think they're one of the teams that they'll always have like good players come in. They'll always like come in with a pretty strong recruiting class. But I like Cameron Rising as QB. I think he'll do okay. But with Tavion Thomas back at running back too, like I don't know. I think they've got a little bit more of a like complete setup with their team defensively and offensively that Florida doesn't have. I mean, we saw last year, we just talked about moving quarterbacks around. They were back and forth on quarterbacks at Florida. And I mean, that was the case for several positions. I don't know that they have solved all of that in the offseason. So just from a continuity standpoint, I think Utah just has it together and will probably come in, play a bit more of a clean game.
Yeah, I like Utah as well. Anytime you have a big coaching change, there's always that little bit of a lull period of trying to get things together. I'm with you though, Thomas. I like the Billy Napier hiring. I feel like he is going to wind up being a good coach at Florida. He did really well with Louisiana. I mean, I think they were a double-digit win team every year, except for his first season. So they've definitely he's built a really good program there. So I feel like transitioning to a team like Florida, I feel like he's going to be able to bring them back to a little bit more prominence. But as Kyle mentioned, Utah they've been consistent over the last few seasons. I'm pretty sure they've won 9+ games over the last 3 or 4 years. So they also are a very good program. I feel like what's the spread for that one?
3 to Utah.
3 points? Really?
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it's going to be at least a 2-touchdown game.
All right.
That's another consensus pick. So we have 3 out of 4 consensus picks. The difference factor, I mean, I'm guessing it's probably going to be 4 out of 5 consensus picks here straight up. Jared, that West Virginia game could be the deciding factor for week 1, but let's get to the game of the week. You guys convinced me. Saturday night game, Notre Dame at Ohio State. This is a 17-point game on the spread in Ohio State's favor, obviously. We'll go a little bit longer because this game is pretty – this game is pretty important for week 1. But is this another consensus pick? I'll start it off. Obviously, Ohio State, give it to me all day and night, Ohio State. Although, again, give me the points probably with Notre Dame with 17 is a lot.
Ohio State. I think Ohio State's my national champion for this year, as much as I don't want to say it. They have everything that they need. Their defense is going to be scary. Travion Henderson is coming off of a 1,200-yard rushing season. I think he is probably someone who's not being looked at that could make some noise of being a potential Heisman candidate if he really gets in the end zone, pushes, 1,500 yards. And then CJ Stroud, I think he's going to have a fantastic year too. Obviously, he's already a look at Heisman. Ohio State for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go Ohio State too. I'm with you. I think that there's a whole lot there. And when I said that I have a lot to learn from this, what I have to learn from this is how good's Notre Dame going to be. It's going to tell us a lot about the coaching change, how things are going to going into Columbus, how they're going to be able to respond. That first game, the new coach playing at the Shoe, the primetime game, that's a big one. And so that tells a lot right there. And what I want to see is, Peyton, you mentioned the defense going to be stellar. That's going to be what's going to decide the season. If Notre Dame is able to put up 40 on this Ohio State team, look out. That's going to be an ugly year for Ohio State. They're going to probably lose to Michigan again if that's the case. And so I think the Big Ten season rides on this game for us to be able to make our prediction as to who wins the Big Ten East anyway. And probably the Big Ten, because the Big Ten East always wins the Big Ten. So, yeah, I'm definitely Ohio State, though. I think their defense is going to be much improved. I don't think it's going to be the same problems they had last year, and they'll be able to contain and much stronger across the board. So I'm definitely going Buckeyes.
Yeah, Ohio State. I think coaching change for Notre Dame, losing Brian Kelly, going to LSU. Notre Dame's going to have some growing pains. I know this is
new quarterback.
Exactly. So, and I'm pretty sure this is the head coach's first head coaching gig. So,
It is.
I mean, anytime you have those factors, there's definitely going to be growing pains. I feel like, it could be 17 plus, but Notre Dame definitely has the talent. So, I think I would go with the spread on Notre Dame, but overall, I think Ohio State's just.
Yeah, I was going to say, does anybody want the bonus points? Take the spread here, 17, get a little half point in our ranking system.
I'll take the spread.
Yep. I do think that if Notre Dame wins, I wouldn't be surprised that they won. I'd be surprised that Ohio State lost.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, because that defense, I think, Kyle, you made a good point. I think if Notre Dame does end up winning this game, it's most likely because that defense just isn't improved at all. Because if you're going to come in here, let a brand new quarterback, he's a sophomore, but obviously have very little experience, very new offense here, new coach. If you let that offense come in here and win that game on the road, that defense is in for a long season, I think. But obviously we all probably don't think that's happening. So,
all right. Are we going to give Jared his 5 minutes that we promised him, even though we've gone a little long here?
I don't even know if I'll need that long, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, let's do it. Before we move over to the NFL.
Short here.
Go ahead and tell us we're right about Clemson racking up 3 to 4 losses.
No, I just know Peyton likes to ruffle my feathers. No, but overall, I felt like you guys gave a pretty good synopsis from what I could tell. I do think that it's going to be one of those things where you have to take into account Brent Venables is gone. That is a very big deal. I feel like, of course, he was a huge component to the culture that we wound up building underneath of Dabo's tenure. And so losing a piece like that, it was almost like losing a brother. That's really how it was. Because I know after Clemson lost, it was in 2010, they lost in their bowl game, or 2009, one of the two. And Dabo called up Brent Venables and said, "Hey, let's build something special here at Clemson," and was able to pull him away from Oklahoma. So when the Oklahoma job became available, I was definitely like, "Oh man, I think Brent Venables is gone," because he always said he wanted to have the perfect situation. He was waiting for it. There were a bunch of other opportunities that he got interviewed for, or at least programs were reaching out to interview him, but he said he was happy with where he was at. So I'm also interested to see how he does as a head coach. I wish him nothing but the best. He definitely gave us a lot to cheer for on that defense. Speaking of, we are getting 2 of our defensive linemen back from injury. Brew, who was a 5-star defensive tackle, was out all last season. So the fact that he'll be back, he'll be a junior this year, and they have him as a first-round pick. So the fact that he's coming back, I mean, the defense was still good last year. That was the other component, was that the defense was still very good. The fact that we won 10 games with as inept as DJ Uiagalelei played really kind of shows me that if he even plays an ounce better this year, that we should be a very good team. And I mean, we're going to be a good team regardless because of the talent that we have. But if he's able to elevate his play whatsoever, we'll be a very good team. I expect him to raise his game. And as Peyton said, I am on thin ice with him. I feel like if he doesn't show me something in these first few games, then it's time to put Cade in. And it's kind of that situation with Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence, and Cole Stout and Deshaun Watson. If DJ comes in these first few games and he struggles and Cade comes out and balls out, then I think Dabo's done it in the past. He has no issue saying, hey, Cade, you're the guy. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. We know that DJ has the ability. He has the physical tools, but a lot of it is he doesn't make quick decisions. And that's what Dabo wants to see him make, are those quick decisions. We also lost our offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott. So, which a lot of Clemson fans were not too sad to see him go. They were ready to see a new system, or at least a little bit something different. So I am excited to see Brandon Streeter. I've heard a lot of good things. Dabo feels like we're not going to miss a beat. Now, of course, I know Dabo's an optimist like myself, so he can say that. But I'm interested to see the first few weeks how the offense does look. In addition, Peyton mentioned Will Shipley had 700 yards rushing last year. He was also injured for a good 3 or 4 games. So the fact that he had 700 yards rushing and he was out a few games, I feel like he very well could have a 1,000-yard season this year. And a lot of folks thought that our defense and offense were going to struggle in the recruiting trail, but even just this past year, we were still top 10 in recruiting. So I don't feel like Clemson's going anywhere. I feel like there is a lot of buzz around us because we did lose 2 of our staple coordinators in Tony Elliott and, of course, Brent Venables. But this will be a year to really say, hey, Dabo, are you worth the multi-millions that you're making per year? So I think the answer is yes. I think Dabo has proven that. And I really think last year was his best coaching job that he's done since he's been at Clemson, with the amount of injuries that we had. We had so many injuries across any position. And another one I mentioned in the text is my last point. I would really look for Joseph Ngata, to have a big year for us this year at wide receiver. He's 6'3", 225. He's an NFL body. His biggest thing has been health. If he can stay on the field, and that's a big if because he's been hurt all 3 years, but if he is able to stay on the field, that kid's got all the ability in the world to be I would say at least top 2 round pick. So I'm excited to see him play this year. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the biggest games, of course, at Notre Dame is going to be tough, but again, the fact that they have a rookie head coach, I feel like that's certainly a winnable game for us. And it also will depend on who the quarterback is, if DJ has actually stepped up at that point or if Cade's come in. So I think that's going to be the biggest test for us this year, along with, as Peyton mentioned, NC State too. I think NC State's just that team that they're always in the mix with us. I think we get revenge on Pitt this year. I can't remember the other game you guys mentioned that we might lose, but I do think NC State's another team to look out for in the ACC. I think if they can get by us, then I feel as if they very well could win the ACC this year.
The other game was probably the Miami game.
The Miami game, and that's another home game for us. I mean, we're so tough at Death Valley. I don't know. Both of those games are at home too, and those are the games you want to be able to play at home. Are those big teams like Miami and NC State? So
what's the prediction?
I feel like we're going to lose
record-wise?
one. I do feel like we're going to lose one game
Do
this
they get
year.
to the playoffs? Because if they lose one,
we'd have to win
likely...
we'd have to win the ACC. So, and I mean, I hate it because it's my team, but it's just kind of how it's turned out. Our name now is one that a lot of the media will pick because it's Clemson, especially if we're doing well. So if we lose one game, we win the ACC, I do think we make the college football playoff, yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Peyton, are you going to say it or am I?
Which, I don't know. You say it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not the real Death Valley.
Oh, please.
Jared's back. I'm happy to. It's like when you have that disobedient son who's just like been away for so long. We're just happy to have him back. I'm not going to ruffle feathers at dinner. Love you, Jared.
All right. Well,
I love you guys too.
I heard you have a little bit of a trivia for us. So we're going to, in between our break, we'll try to do this most weeks, if not every week. In our transition from college football to the NFL, do a little bit of trivia. Peyton, you have the trivia for this week, correct? I do. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. So open up the floor. Let's get a little trivia going as we transition over to the NFL. What do you got?
All right. So this is a little who am I? Getting back to
Let's see those hands, boys. Let's see those hands.
Yeah, that's true. Getting back to our roots here. So I'm only going to give a handful of hints. We're not going to do what we did last time where it was like 15 or...
Yeah, we'll go quick. We'll go quick.
So to start off, you guys are going to be telling me who this wide receiver is. Now, this particular wide receiver had a great career. Really impressed with kind of the household name that he ended up being. The first few hints that I'm gonna give you, one is a kind of a shock, and then the other two are just more so anecdotal for his performance. So the anecdotal ones, he played for one team his entire career, and he played for 14 years. So obviously a notable player for that particular team if he's going to stick around for that long. He had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of his 14-year career. He had over 1,000 yards receiving. 6 of those were in a row. And then 3 of those, which were also in a row, were over 1,200 yards. So, I mean, very productive wide receiver. But the kind of the shock factor here, not a single all-pro, first team or second team, his entire career.
Oh, wow.
Who am I?
Derek Mason.
Hines Ward.
No.
That's a good guess, though, Thomas. I like the Derek Mason guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. You're not going to tell us the era, are you?
No.
No.
I'm also not going to tell you the team.
Yeah, that would give it away. The team would give it away. Ooh, man, this is a good one, though, Peyton. Because
nobody on Green Bay. It's nobody probably on the Patriots. Definitely not on the Jets.
Trying to think of wide receivers that stayed somewhere their whole career.
Yeah, no Miami, no Buffalo, most likely.
Tim Brown
Smith left. Yeah,
good guess, but no.
Yeah, Stu Smith.
Honestly, I feel like he had to be first team All-Pro.
Nobody on Philly that I would think. No wide receivers from the Giants.
Yeah, Thomas is blazing through the divisions right now.
What about Amani Toomer?
No. I don't know. Did he play that long?
I don't think he played that long.
Did he not play that long?
We'll look that up while you're...
Steelers, it wasn't Hines. I don't know. I mean, that's the wide receiver factory. But
the
obviously
Bills
Antonio Brown went to a new... Well, Stevie didn't play that long.
Andre Rison?
Nope.
No, he didn't play that long either.
He was a Michigan State product, wasn't he, Kyle?
Yep.
So
Texans.
Amani Toomer's stats aren't even on this page.
Oh, wow.
Vikings?
Chris Carter, did he play for any other teams?
Yeah, he did. He played for the Dolphins.
Ooh, Jared. Good memory. That was quick too.
Obviously, no. I don't know if Calvin obviously didn't play that long, so it's not
Calvin,
the Lions.
Calvin played like 8 years.
The Bears. I don't think the Bears really had any.
Can't think of any
Brandon
standout.
Marsh. No, Brandon Marsh played
No, he
for
played
many
for that
teams. Too
long.
many teams. Yeah, but he played for multiple teams.
Jared just loves Brandon Marshall.
Do you have another?
Name any chance he gets?
Do you have another hint or
San Francisco. I'm trying to think of other teams we haven't talked about. San Francisco, Dallas.
No hints. No
Oh,
more.
hang on. Kyle's
Michael
working
Irvin?
through something here. Nope.
No, because Michael Irvin won it because he would have been all pro. Oh, come on.
Marvin played for the Eagles for a year.
My gosh, I can see his face. Is it a Cowboy?
I'm not giving teams.
Oh, come on.
You'll be mad if it's your team, Kyle.
Is it Peterson?
Team will be the last thing I give. So
what's the next clue? So we can move this along a little quicker.
So this individual, this is going to kind of narrow you in a little bit more on time period, Jared. This individual played with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a future Hall of Fame quarterback.
Okay.
Hall of Fame. So back-to-back Hall of Famers, huh?
Well, San Francisco, you had Montana to Young, but it's not
both in the Hall of Fame.
It's not Rice.
No, it has to be someone recent if it's
right.
Eli hasn't gone in yet. Ben hasn't gone in yet. Phillip Rivers.
No. Green Bay, Rodgers, and then Rodgers and Favre.
Who else played?
Donald Driver?
Bingo, Donald.
Wow.
Driver.
Hey, very good.
Wow.
Not a single All-Pro for the man.
That's crazy.
No
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Interesting.
I think Greg Jennings mentioned that in an interview. I think he was talking about just one of the most underrated wide receivers, and I think he mentioned that Donald had never been on a first team.
Well, look at who he kind of took over when Sterling Sharp was on his way out, and he had a long period of time where it was him. Before Greg Jennings came in, before Jordy Nelson came in,
I thought about Ferguson too, who was the other receiver across from Donald Driver for a few seasons too. He was the one that caught the ball.
I don't think Ferguson was with Rodgers though, was he? He was only with. I don't remember.
He was with Favre. Yeah, he was
with Favre later as well. So yeah,
one of the best fantasy names was the Donald Drives a Lambo. I always thought that was a good one.
Yep.
I like that. All right, we've got a lot of topics here for the NFL. Obviously about 2 weeks away, maybe a week and a half till that Thursday night game that opens up. But obviously today was the cut day to cut down to your normal size roster, 53-man roster. Preseason ended over the weekend, so we've got a few things here. You guys want to start with kind of our kind of go-to team's perspective here, or do you want to save that to the end? Because we got a couple of topics here. I'll leave it up to you. You want to start with kind of breaking our team?
I can go first. I don't have a lot on Dallas.
If you have any questions, let me know, because I could give you.
That's because you're a Lions fan, Kyle.
I couldn't tell you that much about the Lions other than I laugh, man.
All right, so we'll go into of like a breakdown of our team. So Kyle, go ahead with the Cowboys as your team.
I'm not going to be able to break down the whole. I have not. We're doing a football podcast. I have not been great. I've immersed myself into college.
Do you want me to break down the Cowboys for you?
You honestly probably could break down the Cowboys for me more. But okay, so offensive line still going to be fantastic.
Hold on.
They're going to be good still. They're still going to be good.
Smith just got hurt. He's out for months.
They're still going to be good.
Look at the numbers.
I'll help you out, Kyle. Amari Cooper's not on your team anymore.
Lyle Collins is not on your team anymore.
I was going to say, your offensive line has been good, and you guys haven't been able to do anything with that team.
We'll let him go. We'll let him go. We don't need to interrupt.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, we'll let Kyle go. Sorry,
but I'd say
Kyle. That was my fault.
Except for last year, that really wasn't the offensive's fault. That was the defense's fault. Last year, the defense finally came together and was.
Here's the thing.
It was great.
They scored the most amount of points in the league last year.
Yes,
they had the most amount of points last year, so offense wasn't the issue. But
I think even without Tyron Smith, that is still a very good offensive line. They're very deep within that position across the board. Jerry Jones drafts offensive linemen that's bread and butter. That's how you won the Super Bowl back in the 90s. So I think the offensive line is still going to be very good. I think Dak is still going to be very good. I think Zeke, I don't know. Pollard, I think, is probably again going to start creeping in to get more and more carries, and they're going to start using Pollard even more and more, which is why when we talk fantasy football, I'll say that's why I stay away from Zeke at this point in time. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be able to, especially not having to share with Amari anymore, is really going to be able to take off and have a lot of production there too. I don't think offense is going to be the problem. I don't really have a lot of question on that side of things. The defense, it's can you repeat last season? I don't know. Not having Gregory was kind of gave me some worries at that point in time, and I still have my questions about what happens in the secondary if they can stick it together for a full season and be able to get the stops when needed. So I don't know. What give me more? That's
that's fair.
Of what I have based on what I've read and seen so far.
I think it's a very decent breakdown. I think I would caution without Tyron Smith, the numbers are a little bit alarming with him on the field versus off the field. So if he is going to be out till December, that could be an issue. But obviously, like you said, offense, not really. I wouldn't be too worried about the offense overall. They'll put up their numbers, especially with Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, the two-headed running back kind of system there.
Dalton Schultz can have a good year as a tight end. Really good year.
Michael Gallup, he's not going on PUP, which is nice. So that means he's should be healthy within the first few games is nice because that wide receiver 2 spot is pretty light right now. Obviously, James Washington got hurt for the year, so that'll be interesting. I do think defensive line should be back to normal. Yeah. DeMarcus Lawrence, I would expect a better year. Dante Fowler Jr., pretty decent pickup there. I think underrated pickup Anthony Barr, if he has anything left. I mean, he had a couple of really good years in Minnesota, so that could be something. And then obviously we all know the phenomenon of Micah Parsons last year. So I would accept
D-line and linebackers, they're solid.
It's the secondary. You're right. It is the secondary.
The safeties in the corners.
That is going to be an issue. Can Trevon Diggs repeat last year? Obviously, he's a very polarizing player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the interceptions, the touchdowns, but you really look into some of those coverage numbers, and
he gets some big interceptions, but he has some big moments where he blows coverage. Yeah, and Jordan Lewis, I'm assuming, is still playing the other side, right?
Jordan Lewis is still there. They really didn't. Anthony Brown is around. They really didn't. They didn't really shore up the other cornerback position there. So, we'll
Kyle,
see.
do you feel strong about your interior defensive line? I know that you still have a okay.
I wish I had Gregory.
Pass rush. Because that wasn't Gregory was more of a defensive end, wasn't he?
He was, but that added a lot to it. So I mean, I feel okay. It definitely would have been nice to have Gregory, and it would have shored more things up for me, where I'd feel better about that secondary because he'd be able to get more pressure in the secondary. Doesn't have to rely as much. So I think that makes a difference, but I'm not too concerned.
I think Anthony Barr was a huge pickup for you guys as well for linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a under the radar addition for you guys.
My big concern with Trevon Diggs, he's after last year, like Thomas said, You look at some of his numbers and they're amazing. You look at all of his numbers and you're like, oh, wow, you got a lot of gaps.
Yep.
He's kind of like Marshawn Lattimore, where like a big name, he'll lock you up, but a nobody, and you're going to run all over him. Like if you're a fourth,
except for Mike Evans,
fifth string
Lattimore would lock down Mike Evans, which was like oddly the one guy that he always locked down. But
that's what I'm saying. Like a big name, like they're going to play him well, but you get a fifth string wide receiver, and somehow that fifth stringer is going to burn this all-pro cornerback. Sure. Trayvon was kind of the same way. So I'll be curious to see what they can do. And Michael Parsons as well. Like, can he repeat? He strikes me as just a playmaker. Like, stick him anywhere on the field and he'll figure out a way to make a play, which every team, like, that's a dream player to be able to have. But whenever those players get out there, teams get creative and move them around, and then they get injured and, they kind of get out of their rhythm. So we'll see if he can stay healthy and productive.
Well, and like you said, Kyle, I think safety play is going to be the big thing for you guys, because Malik Hooker and ex-Clemson Jaron Curse, they're very good in the run game, but as far as the passing game, I feel like you guys should be very good run defensively, but it's that passing game, and I mean, we're in a passing league now, so
look at the schedule too. Some of those teams that you got.
Well, but in your division, I feel like you should be exactly. You guys should be 5-1, 4-2, maybe.
I will say it's not a lock. I would push back. It's not a lock. They win the division. You look at the talent on the defensive side that the Eagles have brought in. I know we all don't love Jalen Hurts, and I don't know if he'll take the next step, but defensively, the Eagles have brought in a lot of talent.
And I agree.
You got to score points, though. I don't.
I don't
believe the Eagles.
They brought in A.J. Brown. I mean, the offense should be improved in a way as well. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a terrible quarterback, so it's a weird team.
They're a we'll see team. I also think the Eagles win the division, but they're a we'll see team.
Yeah, it is a we'll see team, but I'm not saying Dallas is a lock for Dallas is no longer a lock to win this division as much as the Eagles have improved on defense.
Teams in
I would say
NFC East hasn't had back-to-back winners on a consistent basis in forever. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
If you look at what his history has been for a while, I hear what you're saying. We have a tough schedule, non-division schedule. I mean, Buccaneers, Bengals. Okay, Giants not, Commanders not, Rams, Eagles. What you guys are saying, good. Lions, who knows? I don't think they're going to be good, but who knows? Bears not good. Packers, very good. I think Vikings still very good. Just because you don't know what you're going to get at times. Like they're a hard team to predict. Giants not great. Colts hard game. Texans, that's a win. Jaguars is a win. Eagles at Titans. It depends on what we get. And then Commanders. So I mean, it's not a cakewalk.
Yeah, I hear probably 6 losses, but to be honest with you, I just feel like y'all's division is just not. I don't think the Commanders a few years ago, their defense was very good, but last year they took a step back on defense. So it's going to be a matter of, can that defense get back to where they were 2 years ago?
The Carson Wentz forever away from being good.
So the Giants are still in rebuild mode, so you don't really have to worry about them. They shouldn't sneak any games on you. But yeah, I agree with Thomas. I think that the Eagles are the team to look out for in that division. However, I'm not a huge believer in Jalen Hurts. I like the guy. I want him to succeed because I like his story. He's just one of those guys that any situation he's been in, he's always been a professional, and he's just taken it on, and he's made the most of it. So I don't know. I do just feel like the Cowboys ultimately win y'all's division, but I think y'all be like 11-6. Is that what it is now? So I feel like that probably would be your record is 11-6, but you win the division.
Went way more than 5 minutes on the Cowboys, but
it's America's team, right?
America's team.
It is. Well, let's move over to the AFC South, which is probably another division favorite, right? With the Colts. Peyton, give us a little rundown on the Colts with another new quarterback. another new system there. So what do you expect here on your Indianapolis Colts?
Super Bowl.
So
that's my Colts analysis.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
I feel like Matt Ryan is getting, because he had nothing going on in Atlanta the last few years, like, oh, he's washed up, he's done. Like, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that his organization matters for players. Certain players will thrive in certain organizations, and you put them in other organizations, and it kind of chokes them out. With Matt Ryan, I mean, he put up numbers his entire career, but there was never that like big push to like build the full roster that he would need. They had one with a lot of like young talent on their team where they happened to go to that Super Bowl. And then Matt Ryan is actually the one who ruined it. But no, I'm excited to see him go in. Early comments were that he was pushing their practices and that the offense was getting through everything in their practices faster, not just to try and like wrap up, but for them to go ahead and get into game cadence of how to transition from one thing to the next, to react, to change, to really just try and get them settled into a faster way of doing things. I think with kind of an RPO situation, he'll be in his safe space again. Having a strong run game is really going to help him, because that was when we saw him at his best, was with the 1-2 punch with Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman. Like, those were some really productive Matt Ryan years. So the fact that we're giving him Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, I think is a dream come true for him. Part of the reason why I would think he'd want to go there. Strong offensive line as well. I have high expectations if we can stay healthy. We're pretty deep at offensive line as well. Wide receiver is a big question mark that every person in the media brings up. That's not as big of a concern for me. Because in my mind, my issue last year, and we pretty much had the same receiving core, was we had a quarterback who wouldn't get them the ball. Not necessarily that he couldn't, he wouldn't throw the ball to them. Matt Ryan will air it out all day long. We saw Michael Pittman was the only one who was productive from the receiving end. I think Matt Ryan's expectation is that every receiver is productive for him. We've heard some of the audio that he's kind of a perfectionist. He's always been that way. So I think he's going to take a very young wide receiving core, and he's going to raise the level of expectation for all of them. I would expect Pittman to have another 1,000-yard season. I'm hoping Paris Campbell can, stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
Maybe he'll hit around 800, 700 yards. If he could exceed that, I would be very happy. Ashton Doolin, I'd love to. He's so electric. I love that guy. I really hope he gets some more offensive snaps on top of his, special teams productivity. But of course, we've had Rigo go down with his Achilles injury, so that's definitely a hit. There's only a handful of punters that I'm like, you would actually be like a big loss for your team. Rigo is one of them for me. Really good at placing the ball. I think that it's a loss for us, but it's not the biggest loss that we could have experienced. We do get Hot Rod back kicking the ball for us. So I'm happy that he's healthy again. When we look at defense, the thing I love about Chris Ballard is he has a good defense and he keeps investing in it. He keeps adding depth. He keeps adding players to it. And our defensive line has always been something that kind of is questionable ever since we lost Freeney and then Mathis. Ever since then, it's just been meh. We haven't really had much of a good defensive line, but I'm expecting Kwity Paye to take another step up this year. He played okay for a rookie last year. I wasn't upset with him. I was glad that he performed the way that he did. But DeForest Buckner, he's got to be so amped right now with the talent that he has. Having added Ngakoue, we've got Kwity Paye in his second year. We've got Odenigbo, both of them. adding in. And then Grover Stewart, we've got him back. Tyquan Lewis, I know he's had some injury problems, but he's back again. We were able to re-sign him. So really excited for our defensive line. I wonder, I hesitate to even say this. The last few years we've been a top 5 defense. I don't know how this season's going to shake out. On paper, we look like we might be the best run stopping defensive line in the entire league.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, defensively, the run game is strong, but
Kari Willis, I think, is a big loss. Safety.
He was, but Cross coming in, having just drafted him, he's already been turning heads in camp.
Blackman.
So I'm perfectly fine with that. Blackman, good player as well. But I think the biggest addition to the defense was probably Stephon Gilmore. Because now Kenny Moore is not the only guy. Because Rhodes was fine, but then he got hurt and then he came back and he wasn't all that great. So now that Kenny Moore can kind of breathe a little bit, and they can do more of a physical switch of who covers who, because obviously they've got their own specialty, but I think that'll help the secondary quite a bit, that they can switch a little bit more easily, and that Gilmore can kind of take some of that pressure off of Kenny Moore. So our defense, I'm super pumped about it. The fact that we've been a top 5 defense the last few years, I'm expecting the same thing again. Certain aspects of us, I think, like the run stopping, I think we might be number 1 in the league, have potential to be at least.
Well, and with what Peyton's saying too, the fact that your defensive line is so good, even if you've made a few changes on the back end, because that defensive line is so very, very good, they're able to kind of make up for any of the rookie potential mistakes that Cross might make, because he might not be in those situations because the defensive line gets home. So the fact that you guys are just so deep all around on the defensive side, I agree with you. I think you guys are going to be a top 3 defense, and I definitely personally feel like y'all are going to win the division. So,
and our second level too, with Shaq Leonard, Bobby Okereke, Zaire Franklin, EJ Speed, EJ Speed has just been improving, getting more time. I think he's one of those slowly developing players. But of course, we just got Stewart from the Bucks today. He's a young guy. I mean, the Bucks just drafted him last year, so there's not much there. But I think it's odd that we are bringing in a linebacker this late, unless they're delaying Shaquille Leonard's return, or if they saw something in this guy.
PUP today, right? They activated him, so
he is.
That's a positive.
Yeah. So, and he's on his timeline. We're not delayed at all. This is kind of what we all expected, that if he's going to be ready for week 1, it's going to be week 1.
I mean, could it just be a depth piece, right? I was going to ask, as we kind of finish up on the Colts, are you at a little concerned? I mean, obviously the division's probably one of the weakest in the league, which is nice. Love the Matt Ryan upgrade, like you said, and the defensive line is going to be extremely solid. Are you at all worried with weapons on offense and probably the secondary? Are you worried that they might be a little too top heavy and not have much depth there? So 1 or 2 injuries to the running back room, wide receiver room, or secondary could kind of derail the season at all. Are you worried about that?
Running back, I think we're fine. Wide receiver, I also think we're fine. Secondary, I think we can get a little thin if one of our big guys goes down, specifically at corner, not necessarily safety.
You only got 6 wide receivers on that roster, though, so they're only 2 deep.
Well, look, we're a run first team now. With Taylor, he's our number 1 offensive option.
Now, what if there is an injury? Not saying there is, but with an injury with Taylor, you're not worried there at all, because Nyheim Hines is not a workload back, and then the only other running back is
Deion Jackson.
So, I mean, do you have some faith in Deion Jackson there to take over some of that load? Or
I do. He beat out Phillip Lindsay, who we just had to let go. A guy who's seasoned, who has seen the height that you can get to. And now Phillip Lindsay has had his struggles. He's obviously still unfortunately got the size thing that haunts him, where people probably still look at that as a negative thing for him. But no, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that we do still have, even without Taylor, a capable backfield.
If you use Hines in the more of a passing game, he's pretty good too there. So
he'll always be our
third down.
our kind of
The
gadget
one-
little catching guy.
The one position that isn't talked about at all, but Matt Ryan loves, and I know a lot of quarterbacks do, but I know he uses that tight end position quite a bit. And I know the loss of Jack Doyle was huge for you guys, because I know he was a staple of consistency for the Colts for years. And I mean, I know that you've seen a little bit with Mo Alley Cox, but he seems to be more of a run blocking tight end. So what are the, because I see that you guys did draft a rookie.
Johnny Woods.
I like him. Yeah.
From UVA. So I was going to say, what are the reports
He's
out
raw.
of?
Oh, he's raw.
Out of camp?
I would have to. So he is horrible blocking. I don't want to see him block a single soul. If he is in there, I need to know that he is running a route.
That's a red zone. That's a red zone target right there. He's 6'7".
Yeah, he is. I was going to say, I wonder though if we have the largest group of tight ends in the NFL though. Kylan Granson is our little guy out of the three of them. But so the thing with Mo, he's a fantastic run blocker, and I think the fact that he can catch the ball makes him deceptive for us. He's a huge target, which, I mean, Matt Ryan has kind of gotten used to having a large target with Julio. So I think guys with that like large radius, Matt Ryan's going to end up gravitating towards. Yeah, like Thomas said, he's raw. He's going to take probably a couple of years to where he could like earn the starting spot.
I mean, that's most tight ends in general coming in. Tight end is probably one of the
you got a handful that can come in and they can translate fairly well.
The elite of the elite. Tight
it's usually the blocking that they have to learn. But even his route running is kind of shaky. And yeah, he went to UVA, so that's probably where he learned it. But he's got great hands and he's huge. So I think he's got some of those like physical characteristics where he, as long as he is teachable, he'll pick up the rest that the NFL requires that college did not.
Yeah, because I know that, like you mentioned before in the RPO, I know that Matt Ryan loves play action. So, and a lot of times he would really uses tight ends in the play action game. So that's why I'm curious if they do have a tight end that can actually come in and do well in the passing game. I just think that that's going to open up the offense for you guys even more. I feel as if personally the Colts are one of the more well-balanced overall teams in the NFL this year. And, I know you said Super Bowl, but I mean, I really think they're a contender. With Matt Ryan now, they are absolutely a contender for the Super Bowl.
I was going to say, if I look in the division, since that's kind of where we capped off with Kyle and the Cowboys, I'm not concerned about the Texans. I am more concerned about the Jags than I am the Titans, if that's going to make sense.
Sure. No,
I
sure.
think they're kind of a wild card because they had all the pieces last year, but they didn't know how to put it together. That's like the same pieces, but we're going to see a very different product out of it. So I think that's tricky. And I think that's going to be tricky for a lot of teams, but you got Etienne coming back off of injury. What is he going to do? We'll find out. Trevor Lawrence under different coaching. Are they going to support kind of how he wanted to run the offense last year? We will see. Chances are, I think it's a much healthier QB coach relationship. I think that's one thing that we could say is absolutely a lock. The Titans, I'm less concerned about because they're more linear. You have to watch Derrick Henry, and then you have to like keep Tannehill in the back of your mind of who he could throw to. Like it's just a little bit more. Not that they are not talented, not that they couldn't beat us twice this year. But in my mind, we have to beat Jacksonville twice. We need to beat the Texans twice, and we need to at least grab one from the Titans. Even though I'm saying split with the Titans, I'm still more concerned about Jacksonville.
And with the Titans, I mean, they've lost two of their best weapons 2 years in a row. They lost Corey Davis, and then they also lose A.J. Brown. So that now they're thin on the outside. And so, like you said, it just makes the defenses even more so. Hey, if we stop Derrick Henry, we're going to be okay. And their defense has also, we've seen that they've taken a dip over the last few seasons as well. So what's made the Titans so good, I don't feel like they've sustained that. They haven't done a good job of holding on to those individuals that have made their team so good. So I agree, though. I think that the Colts and the Jags are the teams that are going to battle it out for the AFC South.
All right, let's move on. I think final prediction there, Peyton. We're not very good at time constraint, but final prediction here, Peyton, as far as the Colts win division, playoffs. What are you thinking here, real quick, before we move on?
I don't want to say this if I'm being realistic. A loss in the AFC Championship.
Ooh, to who?
The Jets.
I don't know. I need to look at
we could save that.
where everyone's going to go.
Bills.
Probably, I don't know. The Bills are scary.
Yeah, I was going to say the Colts go 13-4. That's my record for them.
I'd agree with that.
Look, I think, all right, yeah, that's good. I think
4 or 5.
One interesting thing that I didn't get in is it is pretty interesting. Nobody else had over 400 yards receiving other than Pittman, and they kind of didn't address that. I know you're big on Alec Pierce, but kind of didn't address that, which is a little interesting. But
again,
yeah, I don't know.
Your quarterback has got to get the ball to them. The amount of times that he did not,
I opened the door again. I know.
It was the most frustrating thing.
I know. All right. Well, this is
5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes.
Let's talk the Jets. Most people don't need more than 5 minutes on the Jets. This will be tough for Jared and I to constrict this to the Jets. But Jared, I'll let you start real quick and kind of overall expectations and kind of roster, because there was a lot of talent added, but we'll save the national people of too much Jets talk here and what that looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. A lot of talent has been brought in. I think you and I both agree JD has done a great job this offseason bringing in a lot of talent for us, especially on the outside. I think Elijah Moore is going to have a big year this year. I think this is his breakout season. Everyone that has come out and seen him, especially other teams, have said that he's special. So if other teams are saying he's special, I mean,
I saw a poll actually. Somebody did a survey of 100 executives in the NFL, and they said the most underrated player, it was an open-ended question. The most underrated player in the NFL by most votes was Elijah Moore, which just got me. Obviously, everybody knows you need a quarterback to get you the ball, but that's right. That is pretty exciting.
He honestly, and I might get blasted. He honestly reminds me of Antonio Brown. Just his route running ability, his speed.
He's a mix of that and Brandon Cooks. He's a mix of it of Brown and kind of Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, so I want to see it on the field. So if he can put that on the field, obviously that's going to just add a whole dynamic to our team. So, I think it's all going to boil down to quarterback play again for us. So this is going to be the season for Zach Wilson. Can he be the guy? And he's going to have the team around him. He's got the talent. I mean, Corey Davis on the outside, Elijah Moore on the outside. We brought in a couple of tight ends. I really like Tyler Conklin a lot. I think he's a huge addition at the tight end position. CJ Uzoma from the Bengals brings in a veteran presence. So he has the weapons. And then, of course, you draft Breece Hall. Is it Breece Hall?
Breece Hall and Michael Carter obviously still out there. So I'll let you kind of take off the offense there. Final thoughts, and I'll kind of address the defense real quick. But any kind of final thoughts on the offense, especially with Mike LaFleur, kind of a second year there. I think that's pretty interesting too.
I agree. I think that's going to be big for us, as well as seeing how he has progressed as an offensive coordinator. In addition, I feel like we've done a pretty decent job on the offensive line as well. I know, of course, we lose Becton for most of the season, but JD has done a really good job of bringing in veteran presence. And, I feel like that's more of a strong suit for us, whereas before that was definitely a weak point. So overall, I feel like Joe Douglas has just been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Joe Douglas and what he's done. Regardless of what you feel about Zach Wilson, because he's a big unknown, and it sucks that he's starting the year a little bit banged up and don't know how many games he'll miss. But I don't think you can argue of the second-year quarterbacks what team has done a better job at surrounding their quarterback. I know Peyton kind of talked about some of the weapons and what Jacksonville's done with Trevor Lawrence, but I think the Jets have done the best job at surrounding their quarterback, and they should get a definite answer here if he's healthy. He probably has the most talent around him of the second-year quarterbacks on offense. Most weapons, great backfield, very solid O-line, like you said, and he's the only second-year quarterback to come back with the same offensive coordinator. All the other ones, new offensive coordinator, new system, which we know is usually a bad omen for rookie quarterbacks coming into the next year. So I think that's interesting. Defensively, like you said, they were the worst defense last year. They have majority of new starters, so can't get any worse, which is a good thing. Carl Lawson's back. The whole secondary is new. Sauce Gardner is getting extremely high praise. He didn't even get targeted in the preseason, which is usually a good thing. I mean, he's been locked down. DJ Reed was one of PFF's top-rated cornerbacks for Seattle last year, like top-rated in the NFL. He didn't allow a touchdown last year. So secondary is extremely
Whitehead, upgraded. Too, from the
Whitehead,
Bucs.
Safety, and Joyner's back.
Best.
We'll see what we get there. But
PFF Whitehead ranked him as one of the best in the league
last
year.
Run-stopping safeties, one of the best run-stopping safeties. So that's huge. So I think defensive can't get worse, and obviously the talent's been upgraded. So we'll see. But, again, it all comes down to the quarterback, and we shall see with Zach Wilson.
My biggest question mark for the defense is outside linebacker. Obviously I feel like CJ Mosley, very good. And you got Jermaine Johnson coming in as well.
Yeah.
Because I guess we run a 4-3, don't we?
Yes.
Or a 3-4.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting year, fun year for us.
I'm curious though, because y'all have such an interesting division.
Yeah, it is.
I'm thinking like
high variance, for sure, other than Buffalo.
I look at New England. I think you guys sweep them this year. What do you guys think?
I mean, the problem is we haven't beat them. Here's the thing: we haven't beat them in New England in like 10 years. Mm-hmm. The only reason anybody thinks New England is going to be decent this year is Bill Belichick. Look at the roster. I mean, look at the roster. They don't have an offensive. I mean, Matt Patricia is their offensive coordinator potentially. The team stinks. I'm sorry, the team stinks, but we only see it's Bill Belichick. That's it. But I have no idea.
2 wins.
We'll split with New England. I won't.
Quarterback play still.
Mac.
I think.
I was going to say they don't have a good quarterback either.
No, I think the jury's still out of Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones.
Yeah, he's an NFL quarterback, but he's not.
He's not good.
We might have seen his best play. I mean,
no, I don't. I agree. I don't think you've seen his best play, but
no, I think we have. I think we might have seen his best.
No, play. I don't think so. I think you're still going to see him grow into it.
It's Matt Patricia calling plays with Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers.
Okay, but that's not Mac Jones making the plays. That's Matt Patricia giving him bad ones to go in.
Again, they're not doing anything to surround him. The offensive line is worse this year. They traded away Trent Brown. I mean, the offensive line. That's all I'm saying. Is
hear me what I'm saying.
They're not setting him up.
Right.
And J.C. Jackson's gone.
I'm saying that you just don't know with New England is what I'm saying. It's.
I'm saying I don't think there's another step for Mac Jones. So if they didn't put any better talent around him, we've seen Mac Jones because he's not taking another step.
Well, and the fact that New England made the playoffs last year, they're going to have a tougher schedule this year too.
Yep.
So, and I think in addition to what Thomas and Peyton are also saying is that their roster is just not where it needs to be to compete with that kind of schedule.
I think the one thing that, Kyle, to your point, you can say you just never really know with New England would be their defense being productive.
Sure.
I think the offense is going to be grips, and I don't want to watch it.
On the Mac Jones things, let me say this. I think you are right. I definitely can agree with you that the offense is not something to write home about or get excited about. However, I disagree that we for certain have not seen the best of Mac Jones. I think you give him the opportunity to get some decent weapons around him and get him a little bit more protection over the next few years. I think you could see him
a few years,
not this year. I get we're talking this year. I get that, but I'm saying for what we discussed on the Mac Jones part, I'm not ready to count him off yet. I said when he got drafted, I think he's a few years project to be able to get to a point in time where he is a good NFL quarterback.
And I people thought of Mac Jones.
Oh no.
That's the thing.
Thought the opposite. He's going to give
agree.
you
a lot of people in the
floor.
media said that. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's going to be." I said, "No, I don't think that's going to be the case." I said this numerous times. I said Mac Jones is going to be a project quarterback in the NFL who I think if he gets the right weapons around him can get better.
Can't have your starter be the project quarterback. Well, if you get a project quarterback,
but who else better have? That's the problem.
No, that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't have picked Mac Jones. If you want a project quarterback, they need to be behind somebody else.
That's
Trey Lance. You know who you can blame? You know who you can blame?
They had their chance to go back and get Jimmy G, to look at other quarterbacks in the draft. Like you had plenty of opportunities over the last few years, and you didn't, necessarily make the right call. I don't think Mac Jones. I agree.
Bad.
I agree with Thomas. I think Mac Jones, this is the height, and he'll be a very good backup for his career.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the problem for the Patriots too. Is again, to Thomas's point, who have they surrounded Mac Jones with? They haven't given him any, and that's another problem for a project quarterback, is that you better have weapons for the guy and give him someone he can throw the ball to.
Poor Justin Fields. Look at Justin Fields. We're not talking about the Bears today, but look at that. They're doing absolutely nothing as well, and you got to feel for the guy. Simple as that. So looking at the Jets real quick, like you said, division-wise, I'd be happy if we get 3 wins in division. I'd be happy with that. If we could go 500 in division, wonderful. The problem is it's a really tough start. You start with the AFC North, all 4 games straight. You get a little bit of break because it's Jacoby Brissett week 2, but it's a tough start to the year, which is always the Jets' problem. They start off really tough. And the second half of the schedule is really easy, so maybe momentum-wise, but you just hope you're not out of it by September. You want to be able to play some games that are meaningful late in the year.
I feel like I see you guys sweeping the Patriots, splitting with Miami, and then losing 2 to Buffalo, which meets your your 3. Now, perfect scenario if you could steal one from Buffalo, or if you could take both from Miami. I think Miami is going to be I don't know. I think they're going to be a weird team for everybody to play this year. And I think it's just because of their offense. I don't think their defense is going to be spectacular. They're an NFL defense, but I think their offense is going to be the part that all of a sudden it's clicking and they're putting up points again.
That's going to be an interesting watch.
It's all about Tua. Is Tua the guy? They've definitely given him the weapons that he needs to show that he is the franchise quarterback. But I really think this is this is your 1-year audition. You're either the guy or you're not. So they're not going to waste Tyreek Hill's time. They're not going to waste Jalen Waddle's time either.
Who's the backup quarterback there? Is it Bridgewater?
It is Bridgewater.
It is Teddy.
Yep. Okay. So you got a guy who can come in and play. Yep. So Tua's got some pressure that someone else could take over for him.
That hasn't been the problem in the past.
That's right. When Brian Flores was there, he'd pull him out and put Fitzpatrick in.
Jared, final predictions for the Jets this year. What are you thinking? Best team talent-wise on paper that we've had probably in almost 10 years.
A long time.
I don't know if that translates. So.
But they're just so young too.
Double your wins from last year, 8-9.
I was gonna say I'd be happy with 8 wins. I really would. I'd be happy with 8. I think we'll go 8-9.
I think double your wins. Robert Saleh doubles it up. Give him another year after that. I believe in Robert Saleh. I think that was.
I think he's going to be good too.
You've had in a long time. I like fun trivia. Where did Robert Saleh go to college?
Michigan State.
Nope.
Oh,
If you're
I
in the right state,
thought you were just gonna say where is he from?
Central Michigan. I don't
Nope.
know.
you're never gonna get this.
No,
Okay.
we won't. Just-
I'll give you some names who went to the same college that he went to: Lloyd Carr, Steve Mariucci, Tom Izzo,
Wow. Really? All
Steve
Michigan
Avery,
State guys.
Steve Avery, not all Michigan State. Lloyd Carr's
Yeah,
definitely
I know.
Michigan State.
A lot of them.
Lloyd Carr's Michigan.
Yeah.
Is it a
Half
major
national
college?
And
championship
San
winner.
Diego State.
Is it a major college?
Ann Arbor Community College.
Northern Michigan University up in the UP. Steve
Northern
Mariucci and Tom Izzo were roommates.
Really?
Wow.
I like that.
That's crazy.
That.
I didn't know they were the same age.
Yep.
Well, I will
Early
say this.
60s.
I do think that the Jets could be a surprise team.
They are a high variance team. It could be
Yes.
another 3-win season, or it could be a 9-win season. I don't know. It is a high variance.
Totally agree with that. And I do think that Salah is someone that you have to let him develop as a head coach. So hopefully we're patient with him. I want to see improvement this year, and I think that's what all Jets fans want to see.
And lastly, I think we had the first or second worst injury luck last year with all.
Yeah.
So that obviously has to change. So as long as we get back to regress to the norm, hopefully on injury luck, that should be a difference. So let's kind of finish up. We'll skip the NFL 100 and kind of just the flop that's been this year, and kind of go over to. I think we need to do fantasy advice here to kind of end it up, because next week will be a little bit too late. It's about a week and a half. Most people have fantasy drafts coming up. It's Labor Day weekend, and then obviously the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week is huge for fantasy drafts. So let's go around quickly. Kind of, what's your strategy been? I know Kyle's had a draft. I've had a few.
Listen,
I don't know.
guys.
I think Peyton and I have been kind of giving Kyle some advice. So maybe Kyle, you can defer to us here. But Jared, I don't know if you've had a draft yet, but what is your strategy going in so far in fantasy overall? And then we can kind of get into some sleepers and things like that.
I mean,
I was going to say, do you want to start, Jared, or
hey, you got it. Go ahead.
Go for it, Peyton.
running backs? Draft your running backs early.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think
I
we can all
saw-
agree there. Yeah.
Jared, there is a mutual friend of ours that I saw a picture. They had the old school draft board that they did this year where you put the stickers up for everybody.
I did that this year too. I did one
And
of those.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, and knowing that running back it's so hard this year and there's a million wide receivers, this is what I see in round one. Number one overall, and this is all in order: Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, then Derrick Henry, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek, and then you get to round two: Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert,
Just stop.
Mahomes, Josh
This is-
Allen,
Oh, wow.
Keenan Allen, and I was like,
McCaffrey
"What
hasn't
are
gone
you
yet?
doing?" No, he went. Let's see. Then they went Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, McCaffrey, and then Burrow.
Gosh.
Five
Well,
quarterbacks in the second round.
As I'm sure Peyton and Thomas will both say, value for wide receiver, you can get
It's
some
loaded.
wide receivers.
It's loaded.
Absolutely. But
you can get Juju Smith-Schuster with Patrick Mahomes probably in like
And
the eighth round.
And
Like,
in
it's-
general, that's the case because you typically have multiple out there at a time.
right.
So they see more production. Running backs, sure, you got one out there a good chunk of the time, but they might not even be any good. You got maybe, half the league with a capable running back, and the others,
the
it's
other half's
kinda,
a committee.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where in fantasy it's tricky is when you have the committees, when you have running back by committee, because you want to have that guy that at least gets one or two every 4 downs or every 3 downs. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I would definitely be picking running backs first though.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. You have to if the obviously you don't want to you got to be flexible. Go in with your strategy. Be flexible, but and see how the board falls to you. Yeah, obviously if you got the 10th pick and Justin Jefferson still there, I would think about it, right? Or Jamar Chase. Those guys are studs. Cooper Kupp, if he's there in the second round, you take him. But most likely that's not going to happen. So depending on how the board falls to you, I would most likely go, like you said, running back if it works out. And then you can kind of maybe fiddle around. Maybe you want Kyle Pitts. You think he's going to have a good year. And then you kind of just go 5-6 straight wide receivers in those middle rounds. And I really do think you can wait a quarterback because this is probably the deepest fantasy quarterback year I remember in a while. You can get Kirk Cousins in an actual with an offensive coordinator, as the 14th quarterback off the board. You can get, Aaron Rodgers is going as like the 11th or 12th quarterback in fantasy. So you can wait on quarterback.
The soonest, and granted, I know everyone just kind of, you're reactive based on whatever your league is doing. The soonest a quarterback should go is like no sooner than the 5th round. And those are the like Josh Allen, Mahomes, like guys that have like traditional fantasy impact. But even then, I'm like, unless you want one of those guys, like just wait, because quarterback is rarely the big issue of why you lose in a week. It's other guys like your wide receivers or like your running backs who are contributors to your loss. Periodically, you will have a wide receiver a quarterback if you happen to start, I don't know, Jared Goff, where you only get like 14 points out of him. Well, you got Jared Goff. Maybe, think a little bit more.
If you're in like a 16-team league, then sure. There might be
that's
more
like
importance, but
that's one player and like 2 or 3 times a season. If it happens once, you're probably not even going to play that guy ever again. But like your wide receivers, sometimes you're stuck. Like that's the best one that you have unless you're able to pull off a trade somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
You guys want to give me fantasy advice real quick?
Have you not been listening, Kyle?
No, I have roster advice now because
player-wise,
you guys were talking. I was like, I need to look at my team on there. Well, so I did an ad drop, and I added Brett Mayer, Dallas Cowboys kicker.
Are you asking?
I don't think they dropped him today.
Right? Yeah, I was gonna say.
But
ask about kicker fantasy?
I am because now I have an empty spot that I got to fill. Do I keep him? Because he may get re-signed, or do I wait?
No, it doesn't matter. Just pick up a kicker.
Just grab somebody.
Just pick up.
The biggest thing for kickers is I look at their quarterback. If their quarterback is somebody who can get downfield, regardless of if they get in the end zone or not, but if they can get downfield, I want that kicker. Now, then you take into account, okay, well, like, are they known for missing? Okay, they're not. Sure, he's got a pulse. Let's go for it.
But so usually you're not losing, for kicker. We don't need to do kicker fantasy, to be honest. If I could, I'd abolish the kicker fantasy.
People in my league were bidding on kickers. I'm like, oh, gosh.
So like a kicker that you'd want to get would be the Rams kicker because they're going to put up points.
Yeah, or
Justin Tucker.
Like the Bengals.
Justin Tucker is like he's the kick god. He's the kick god.
So, and Thomas, to your point of abolishing kickers, I'm not a fan. I'm staunchly not a fan of that because there are plenty of games that come across where it is a few points. And you're like, oh, well, kickers don't put up enough points. I'm like, they put up a few points. Like they're game deciders.
Kickers win me a fantasy.
I know that's
I've had multiple times, and I had one championship.
I don't want to lose from a freaking kicker.
I had one championship where Justin Tucker was the deciding factor for me winning because he put up just what I needed.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'll never get Justin Tucker because some idiot always reaches for him in the 12th round. It's stupid. These things are kickers suck. I love kickers in real
It sounds like Thomas has some just
Thomas, there might be some.
Have you watched the league?
You know what I want this year?
Yes, the league.
Host?
I want the Jets. I'm sorry, Jared, that you're caught up in this, but Thomas brought it out of me.
Uh-oh.
Whatever losses the Jets have, I want it to be at the kickers' hand, at their foot.
It's Greg Zuerlein.
No, not from you guys. Not from you guys missing a kick. Not that. Just a kicker, like being able to beat you by 1 point.
In real football, they have value. I like them in real football. Fantasy, when it's a numbers game, it's points. There's no strategy. There's no luck. It's all luck. It's all stupid. Why should somebody be? I don't know.
You could have proven your point, Peyton, by us winning by 1 still. That would still prove your point.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, let's get some,
Nope.
let's get some sleepers or maybe some busts that you think. Just a couple real quick. We'll end it here. So, Peyton, any guys that you're willing to reach on, or any guys that are totally off your list that you want to avoid?
Guys I will completely avoid. All right, so that's more like bigger names. I will not touch Dalvin Cook. I will not touch McCaffrey. And I know a lot of people are, but they're good. I'm like, yeah, when they're healthy, but I can't count on them being healthy. So I'm not going to touch them. That's the worst part of any of this, is trying to deal with injuries with limited fantasy resources. So
with the injuries, though,
Mhm.
would you rather take Christian McCaffrey
100%.
and the questions about injuries, or would you rather take Ezekiel
100%.
Elliott and the question
No.
about is he ever going to be productive again?
No, it's McCaffrey. If it depends on your personality. If you like to go for risks and you like the high side, the upside, you go for McCaffrey. You go for McCaffrey because at his best, if he ends up being healthy, he wins you your league. He is the best player in fantasy football. Zeke, I'm sorry, he might play 17 games. He hasn't, he was injured last year, but he plays. He plays. It's never a question. He's going to be out there and play, but he's never going to win you your league. Upside.
I would roll the dice on Zeke before I would draft McCaffrey.
I disagree.
Because if I'm in the position to draft McCaffrey, I'm drafting someone else. I'm drafting Jonathan Taylor. I'm taking Derrick Henry. So like, I wouldn't be in a position where I would have to choose between McCaffrey and
draft.
I get it. I get if that's fine. If you think injuries are done and you think that's it, I get it. Then you never, like you said, you'll never draft it. He's totally off. But if you want to take the risk, I get it going early, because I have the number 2 pick in a draft coming up, and I'm sure Jonathan Taylor is going to go 1. I'm considering McCaffrey 2, because I know I'm good enough to do the waiver wire, to get his backups, to prepare myself if he gets injured. I feel like I'm a good enough manager in fantasy to help kind of navigate that if he does stay healthy, he'll win me the league.
To your point, Thomas, it's what risk do you want to?
Yes.
Because we all have different talents too. What risk do you want to take on?
Exactly.
Well, and the suggestion I would make on, if you do decide to pick Christian McCaffrey, I would highly suggest later on in the draft to take whoever Christian McCaffrey's backup is. Have them on the bench.
Foreman, or I think it's going to be Deontay Foreman.
Isn't it Chuba Hubbard?
I think Foreman's going to beat him out for the 2.
Okay. So yeah, whoever the second stringer is, I would highly suggest taking them in a later round.
Oh, 100%. Reach on it if you have to. If you think he's going to go in a certain spot, you're 100%.
But I would pass on Saquon at this point too.
I like
same
that. Yeah.
Same thing. Another group that I would pass on is any Seattle wide receiver, just because
Geno.
I have no idea what's going to happen there. DK sat in my draft. DK sat there for a while, and it was encouraging to see that every other person in the league kind of thought the same thing. But it's kind of a bummer, because you're like, gosh, if he can just get the ball, like he's a great addition to your roster. But you just
he'd be a good later round pick. So I mean, that's certainly a sleeper pick that you can get.
If he drops enough, DK Metcalf, he actually in games last year with Geno Smith was locked on to DK. So he's definitely, if you're going to go for a guy in Seattle, it would be DK over Lockett. I think he had 6 touchdowns in 3 games with Geno. So Geno looks at him, but again, you're right. It's not early. I think a couple other names to kind of avoid there would be, there's definitely a lot of Javonte Williams hype. He's going like in the 2nd round now.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the upside. He had a lot of, angry runs. He's electric. Melvin Gordon ain't going anywhere. They were a 50-50 split last year. They brought him back. Russell Wilson likes his veteran running backs. He likes guys that know how to pass protect, right? And
I think
know.
One thing that
second round is high value.
One thing that helps Williams is Wilson coming in, being able to throw the ball, because we pretty much just watched the Broncos last year knowing that they were barely going to throw it. that it was going to be run, and he was still productive. Now that they should be able to throw it, open things up a little bit more, open up that middle of the field. I would expect that if they can have a capable offensive line and, diversify their play calling a little bit, that could really give him some good opportunities. So I would love to have him on my roster.
Yeah, I get it, but second round, like you're going to take him over guys like.
No, I'm gonna take Kamara and Aaron Jones. I'd take them over him, but those guys. He's an addition I wouldn't be upset about.
No, exactly. No, I agree. He's not a guy I would avoid, but it just at his ADP now where he's going, he's more maybe like an auction draft. Mm-hmm. I'd spend some money on it, but like second round, I'm not taking him over a Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, all those guys, where he's kind of going. So a couple other names real quick. Running backs on bad teams, not a fan. I know Dameon Pierce is getting some huge hype on Houston. Because he's really the only other guy. They let go Marlon Mack. Sure, a month ago you could get him in the 9th round. He's starting running back, but now he's going in the 5th round. I mean, running backs on bad teams, it's just never a good recipe. I'm sorry.
Devontae
Smith for
Detroit. Swift, sorry.
Oh, Swift. Yeah, DeAndre Swift is actually
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
A second. That's
I like Swift.
I'm pretty conflicted on Swift.
I'm not sold on Swift.
I like Swift because he's going to get you points in PPR leagues for sure. He's going to see the ball.
He's amazing in the passing game, but Jamal Williams, they use him a lot, and I don't think that he's going anywhere. And then I will say their offensive line is good. They got a good. That's the strength of the team. It's the offensive line.
First time in forever being able to actually say the Lions have a good offensive line.
So
I think a sleeper pick, and Kyle has him on his roster, is Allen Robinson.
Well, hang on. I want to go back to Swift for a second. What are we basing it off of? Like, what are we basing his productivity off of? Because he hasn't done anything.
His passing work last year, right? Yeah, he had. I mean,
received for 452 yards. Okay, that's. Rushed for 617.
62 receptions for a running back in his rookie years. Getting there in kind of that Kamara range. Kamara was typically that 70, 80 receptions. So, again.
Yeah, but still, you would think he'd have more than 452 yards off of that. And certainly more than 2 touchdowns.
It's the Hard Knocks and Dan Campbell hype. That's all it is.
Then you got he's started 4 games each of the last 2 years. He has played 13 games total each of those years as well. So, like, he's another one that he was injured his senior year of college because he was fighting through injury in the Iron Bowl. So, like, I haven't seen enough from him. Like, and he could end up being good this year, but I don't know that he's going to stay healthy. And even if he gets the ball, like to your receiving point, you got to get in the end zone more. You got to get more yards off of that. 62 receptions and only 452 yards. I would expect a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess you project that if he does play the full season, that's close to 80 receptions. And PPR, it's all numbers game. That's 80 more points.
And more like 650 yards likely.
Yeah, that's, Derrick Henry, someone like Derrick Henry has 20 receptions a year. So PPR-wise.
If Swift plays the whole season.
Yes, which is.
Yeah, that's the big if.
But you can make that the big if for probably the majority of running backs is the thing. I mean, Dalvin Cook missed 4 games. Aaron Jones missed 3 games. Derrick Henry got hurt at the end of last year. McCaffrey missed half of the year. That's the thing with running backs. I mean, if you get their backup, you're like you said, Jared, you get the handcuff, then you hopefully get that backfield for the full year. But usually predict at least 1 or 2 games you're going to be missing your running back, potentially. Most of these guys get banged up throughout the year.
Yeah, another sleeper pick is switching to – or I'm sorry, we had moved on to something else, and I cut somebody off. So we'll go with – I think it was Jared.
Jared was talking about Allen Robinson.
I just said sleeper pick for me. So, yeah, you're on the right track there, which was Allen Robinson, because I feel like he's gonna see a lot of action, especially with Cooper Kupp being on the other side. I feel like Allen Robinson will get a decent amount of one-on-ones.
For me – Jared is going to start perking up. If you are confident in the roster build that you have, and this kind of goes back to risk, like we talked about earlier, these are the types of risks that I'm perfectly fine taking. Suspensions. So, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is probably the biggest one in my mind of being okay with his suspension and being able to draft. It's funny because in fantasy, even with Deshaun's suspension, like people still don't want to draft him just because, like, they don't want him on their fantasy team just because of his other issues. So for me, out of the suspensions, DeAndre Hopkins has the biggest potential impact.
Yeah, because it's only 6 games.
Yeah. 6 games, and if you load up on wide receiver, like we say, in those middle rounds, if you have you most likely will have at least 3 wide receivers at that point, and then maybe 7th, 8th round, you get DeAndre. You don't need you have the depth. You don't need to start him for those first 6 weeks because you have enough talent. And then he comes back, and the only thing is, Cardinals are a little bit of a clown show right now, so we'll see. I mean, the offense still should be good, but a lot of drama going on over there, so we shall see.
Yeah. I was in a snake draft last week, and I hate drafting so early because you don't know who's going to get cut. You don't know who's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I was 2 picks away, and I was like, I'm taking DeAndre. Like, this is perfect. Like, my starting wide receiver slots are filled. At the very least, he'll come into my flex once he's healthy. And somebody stole him 2 picks away, and they took him. And I'm like, why? Why are you sharing the same thoughts as me?
All right. Well, there is your fantasy football advice. Best of luck. If you use it, let us know. Send us your team. If not, that's fine. That's on you. Have fun in last place because if you want to,
if you win, share your money.
Yeah, give us a prize, 5%. We're the agent here. We help you out with your team. Best of luck. So I know there's going to be a lot of fantasy drafts in the next week and a half, but it is so good to have football back, guys. We got a good college football slate, and then NFL right around the corner.
Yeah, this week.
Man, looking forward to the season.
I can't wait, guys. Jared, thank you so much for coming back on. Hopefully, we'll have you on as a regular again. Peyton, Kyle. Thank you, guys. Another
Pending
week.
Softball, maybe Christian next week.
Maybe Christian. And hopefully no more parties going on. The guy's a party animal. So maybe we can get
on a Tuesday night, mind you.
Maybe Charlotte, who knows what happens there. Maybe we can get a recorded segment just to put his face. Hey, record a video. We'll put it up for you. I like it.
There you
maybe
go.
An MLS special from Christian or a Liberty football special.
This is an American football podcast. American football.
We didn't specify that yet. We just said football.
So I can't talk about Aaron Judge hitting another home run tonight?
Nope.
Okay.
No baseball.
Right. That'll do it for the Illegal Contact Podcast. Thank you guys so much for having us. This was week 2. We'll see you next week.